The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm a little discombobulated. Just because, well, let's talk about this episode, which is episode 113.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. And this episode is different because we left off on a cliffhanger and we didn't finish a letter.
That's right.
So it's very odd because we're going to be coming into like another letter, like we're coming into the middle of it. So, and I know if you're watching it like 112 and you just get down to next, there's been like 2 weeks in between me and Allison doing this. So yeah, so I haven't seen you. Our Riverside software, which is how we podcast, has made a lot of updates and I don't like change. Things are happening. It's crazy times. And so I'm a little discombobulated. So it's going to be very nice, especially because it is kind of a Chester letter.
Kind of.
It's kind of a Chester letter, so that's going to definitely bring me back. So I'm very much discombobulated, but very much looking forward to reading some letters with you today.
And then the other thing is that for the listeners that might have missed episode 112, so where we left off with this portion of the letter is Sweetie was updating on the day-to-day. What's going on? She's getting into poison ivy. I don't think there's a point in time where she's not getting into poison ivy in all of 1952. I don't. I'm waiting for her to not talk about it in one letter. It just hasn't been happening. So we can take that as a given. They're talking about planning a trip, Chester and Laura, to come see Sweetie. We don't know when this is going to happen. Sweetie's concerned with the timing already because she's like, Lou's in the Navy. He might have this thing to do. Lewis is ending his school year. He's going to get his report card. His teacher's retiring. All this stuff's coming up. So if you wanted to hear about the day-to-day for Sweetie in the first half of this letter, you have to go back to episode 112, Like a Dragon. I just love that I get to use the word dragon in this podcast. So appropriate. That was such a great episode. Such a great story. Anyway, first letter about her taking on the roofing company. So great. And then the second letter of the episode is the beginning of this letter. Now we're going to be picking up with that letter today because we are finally getting to something that Sweetie has procrastinated on for at least 2 months, which is Chester's big questionnaire. He sent her like over a dozen questions and she's giving thoughtful responses for those questions. So what we have here as a treat is what she's finally going to answer the questionnaire. And that's what she puts at the end of the letter. So we're going to start with the questionnaire today. And continue Sweetie's letter. And then there is going to be a little letter at the end of it to Jean and to Glenn. So really 4 main parts are coming up for this next section. And then we do have another letter today. These letters are back to back. The one's from June 2nd, the other's from June 3rd. Of course, we're in the year 1952. A little bit of housekeeping. If you could please like, share, and subscribe to the Love Sweetie podcast on YouTube, we appreciate that. Turn on that bell icon so you get the notification when new episodes are released. It's going to be every Sunday, except I'm going to make one change to that in a moment. If you're listening on our audio channels, welcome. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening on Spotify, whatever the main thing is in that channel, follow, download, like, leave review, all that good stuff. We appreciate all of it. It helps circulate the podcast even more with more people. And then, of course, check out the website at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. All right, but I did want to talk about next week. We have a special episode coming out next week. And we are approaching the 4th of July, and not just any 4th of July. We are, how do I say this? The semi-quincentennial, right? That's the word.
So that's what
I'll put it on
I
the
was
screen.
wondering what the official word is. It's
I
the
think
Can you say
that's
it?
it. Let me check it.
Okay, yeah.
Semiquin. Yeah, that is definitely it. Semiquincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial.
Mm-hmm.
Semi-quincentennial.
Half of
That is a
500,
great.
right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't. Maybe I'd like to see the quincentennial, but I don't think I'm gonna live
I don't think we're
250
gonna make
years.
it
Yeah,
that.
I don't think I'm gonna make it that far. But semi-quincentennial, 250 years, 4th of July celebration. So we are gonna release a bonus episode in lieu of the standard episode release schedule on July 4th. So a couple little changes here. Episode's gonna come out on Saturday, July 4th, instead of Sunday, July 5th. Big reason for that, the bonus episode, I'm going to dive into Lou's revolutionary heritage. We have talked about the fact that Lou is descendant of Timothy Matlack, the scribe of the Declaration of Independence. So if you want to hear the story about the scribe, who is often overlooked in the American Revolutionary histories, I'm going to get into that big storyline. So you're going to get an American Revolutionary tale on July 4th on the semi-quincentennial, with direct connection to Sweetie Lou and Lewis. So we'll tie them in and show the full descendancy that leads down to them and the ancestry that points back to the revolution. So that's going to be a really fun episode. So if you want a good dose of revolutionary history, next week, special event, Saturday, July 4th, Love Sweetie podcast explores the American Revolution.
Today, this questionnaire has been something that Sweetie has mentioned. You said she has talked about it in a number of letters, so like mentioned doing it. And so finally, we today are going to get Chester's questionnaire.
I have shuddered every time I look at Papa's questionnaire. Today I said, "Are you man or mouse?" And I guess the answer must be mouse, for I surely can't avoid it longer, and so I shall try to give you some quick, but I hope satisfactory answers to your questions. However, you didn't leave me much room for answers, so I shall have to use this sort of system to answer. Here goes. 1. What kind of churches do you have in town? There are a fair-sized number of fair-sized churches in town, considering the size of the town itself. There are the Presbyterian, Methodist, Lutheran, Catholic, Baptist, and the Grace Reformed churches. Of course, I know most about the Presbyterian and find it is a rather large Sunday school. I think the average attendance would be about 250 per Sunday. There are over 100 members in my class alone, the Samaritan class, which is comprised of a rather large variance of age of its members, but they are very active women in a great many affairs. However, of those 100 members come the large number of teachers for the children's classes. I think there would be well over 35 kids in Lewis's class alone, and it takes 3 women to split the class into thirds to keep order and give reasonably well-informed lessons. Count the number of women from the class if each one of the kids' classes has to be split in thirds. They appear to be pretty well-to-do people, and I think rather sincere. Forgot to list the Episcopal Church. 2. How large is Doylestown? I think roughly I could guess at 5,000 to 5,500 persons. There are 2 banks, some very nice stores considering the size of the town, high class and high-priced also. There is the Doylestown Emergency Hospital, which does a lot of obstetrical work. It is almost a maternity hospital, but they do treat accident cases and do some surgery, but we are close enough to Philadelphia for people to go to the Philadelphia General, Temple University, Penn University Hospital, and Abington General. Most people do not care to go to the local hospital, but I'm not just sure why. As this is Bucks County seat, there is, of course, the courthouse, the county jail, a whole raft of lawyers' offices. We have a small free library that I think carries most of the late novels, but when it comes to real reference books, they could stand a lot of rejuvenation, a real shot in the arm. I forgot to mention in the first question that there are Mennonite churches outside of town also. 3. We do have delivery of mail to our house. The mail arrives at 12:05 to 12:30 noon. There have been numerous complaints about the unsatisfactory mail service, and I can see why at times, but we also have a drop box just at the end of our lot. They collect mail at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and 6:15 p.m. daily. I'm usually lucky enough to get my mail in the box just a minute or two before it is picked up here. but who knows how long it lays at the post office before it leaves Doylestown. 4. Do you have many dogs in town? Not many that run loose, especially since we've had a scourge of rabid foxes in Bucks County. All dogs were put in quarantine, and it was unusual to see a dog running loose on the streets. That is one reason I'm reluctant to get a dog for Lewis, though he is begging for one. The traffic past the house is such that a dog wouldn't stand a chance unless it were tied, and doesn't it seem cruel to you to keep a dog tied constantly? The rabid foxes were quite bad here for some time. The local veterinarians went out and planted poisoned crows as fox bait. They didn't get many foxes, but they did kill off some dogs and were subsequently sued. Foxes even attacked women in their yards and kitchens, and believe it or not, they issued a warning in the schools here that the kids should not play on the streets on their way home, on account of foxes coming into the towns. We had a fox or two found right in Doylestown, but I don't actually believe it was as serious as some of the people let on. I don't scare so easy. Cats? No, rarely see a cat, and can't remember hearing them serenading at night but once. 5. Do they have any maple sugar farms around your town? No, sir, not a one that I know of. 6. Do you drive out in the country much? More than ever before on account of attending so many sales. We do not always go very far away from Doylestown, and there are still a lot of places I'm curious about, but at least we do get out more than we did, and the country is rolling to hilly here, as we are far enough north to come close to the mountains. Some of the scenery is beautiful, and I'm anxious for you to enjoy it also. We can go north out of Doylestown about 9 or 10 miles to the Delaware River with the mountains. You'll like that, I'm sure. And you'll get to see the Delaware Canal, too. 7. Does Lou drive the car to work, and does he leave the car out in the sun and weather? He does drive it to work every day except the days he has duty. Then I drive down with him and bring it back, as I did the morning you called and I was gone. It is roughly 12 miles to his station. He parks it beside the pilot's ready room, a long building where it is pretty well shaded. It is garaged at night, of course. This car is a metallic blue, and we believe the first owners had it porcelainized. I'm not too sure what that is, but it has a nice finish that needs only water to bring it sparkling clean again, and it doesn't show a bit of sun fade. Thank goodness.
So, okay, I love how he comes right off the bat. Do you have any dogs? And let's talk about the churches too. Like the churches, there's so many churches, and then she's like, oh wait, there's also an Episcopal. Oh wait, there's Mennonite too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just churches.
Yeah.
Like, that's funny. We're getting the snapshot of Doylestown in 1952, which is really cool. And it's not typical information. We're getting like the foxes are attacking women in their kitchens. Did that
like,
part?
what is happening? The whole part about the foxes. It's interesting because you never know. This is just for the rest of the video. You have no idea what Chester's going to ask. He seems focused. Like, what are the churches? How big is the town? Are there dogs? Wait, what? It's like left field. Like Chester. And it's the train of thought because she's going in order of his questions. Mm-hmm. This is how Chester's mind works. Right? It's such an insight into his mind where he's just like random thought, insert here, and then he continues on.
It's almost like that, like he thinks of this, and then, you know, like how when you were like, oh, I was thinking about dinner, which like made me think about the time that I burned myself when I was cooking the eggs, and then mm-hmm. you know. So mm-hmm. for him, it was churches first, because, and then how large is Doylestown? Do you mm-hmm. have mail? And mm-hmm. then dogs. What about maple farms? If you were, maple farms would be in the country. Do you drive in the country? You know what I mean?
Like, where's it going? Or was he upset about something going on in Lacona and momentarily interrupted when he was composing his list? So is it an indication of something happening? What I mean by that is like, okay, churches, check. Size of town, check. I can see why they're talking about the postal delivery. This has been a conversation before, but then he inserts with the dogs. Do you have many dogs in town? Was something going on in Lacona where he was distracted? And he's like, oh, we recently had this issue with dogs in town. I should ask her if there's dogs there, which makes me think there was something happening in Lacona about dogs. She's mentioned the maple before. She's talked about pulling up the maple shoots. And I think that's why that's coming up. But this is also the innocent little question about maple sugar farms. is so fascinating to me because it's part of one of the Doylestown mysteries that I'm not sure enough people in town are actually clued into the fact that there is a mystery here that's been going on since at least there was a book that was published, I want to say in the 50s, called Place Names in Bucks County. I have the book. But they go into the history of a road that is right outside town, and the whole book is based on explaining why things are named the way that they're named. It's a fantastic book. It's out of print. It should come back into print because it's like you could just, it's a little page, like you can look up one little thing like an encyclopedia and be like, oh, that's an interesting story. Okay, there's a road right outside town that's called Sugar Bottom Road, and the book writes for about a page and a half on this subject that there is a debate, at least in the 50s, this existed about why that is called Sugar Bottom Road. Some think that on this location, it's a hill too. It's a very hilly road.
Okay.
There could have been a lot more like water running through that area. So they think this could have been a site of sugar production in the 16 and 1700s in Bucks County. So it's possible, because it's called Sugar Bottom, like it's such a fun road name anyway, that there was some sort of sugar production, but they haven't found the archaeological evidence to support that.
You know what it probably is? This is funny. If there is no evidence and there's like, they haven't been able to find all of the things that would indicate that there was some sugaring there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was just a cute nickname for the guy's wife. And he's like, he called her Sugar Bottom. And so when it comes time to name the road, because, if you have a lot of land and you have a road, you can name it, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're allowed to name your own roads. Like if they go, because I see
privatized roads. Yeah. In the past.
Yeah. I see some very cute road names driving through Pennsylvania. So maybe he's just like, hey, Sugar Bottom, guess what I did? I named this road after you.
So here's the thing though. That must be a third option because there's a secondary debate. There's a road by New Hope called Sugan Road, Sugan. I think that's the pronunciation.
Sugan.
And we're wondering, was Sugar Bottom Road supposed to be Sugan Bottom Road as a continuation of the other road that's close by, like a second half of it, because there's no evidence of the sugar. So the debate is, was it just transcribed wrong and it became Sugar Bottom Road? Is it potentially a nickname for somebody that lived there? That's a third option not considered. Or was there actually sugar production in Bucks County? Look, no one's debating this actively, but this has been debated since like the 50s. So Doylestown listeners, like, we need to get to it. We need to get to the bottom.
We need to get to the Sugar Bottom.
It's like an 80-year-old debate. Why is Sugar Bottom called Sugar Bottom? This author from the 50s was clearly working on it. Jamie's brought in a new option here that hasn't even been considered. And no one's like this should be the feature of the Doylestown group. Why is Sugar Bottom Road called Sugar Bottom Road? Now we got Chester in a letter saying, do they have maple sugar farms around your town? We know there's a ton of maple shoots. Now, this is another possibility. What if it was maple sugar going on?
Well, it wasn't, because she says right here, there's no maple sugar farms, and she would have known. Right. She would have known about that. So I think that this is good evidence for it being the guy's nickname for his wife. Because that's what I think. But that's really cool. Yeah. That's really fun. See what I mean? Yeah. See, so we're getting like this really cool snapshot. And we're getting to see Chester's line of thinking, like how his brain works. And like the car, like he's concerned about the car.
It's because of his garage that he built and put his note in a bottle. If you missed that episode.
Oh, that was great.
You, the audience, you are the intended recipient of Chester's message. So, and he has waited a long time for the world to hear his message about how some bad help was awful at helping him build his garage, and then and just in case if people are not aware of this, it's just such a fun thing. Chester put a letter in a bottle and buried it into the foundation of the garage, and when the garage was demolished, clearly the people doing the demolishing probably got it to Gene, because there's no other way. It's with Gene's collection. They probably talked about it and were like, why is this letter in this bottle? Like someone would throw a letter in a bottle in the ocean and hope some random stranger would have it. It is addressed to whoever finds it. And since we are publishing it, you as whoever finds it gets to hear his story about how hard it was for him to build a garage, and his good wife Laura helped. So I'm gonna put the name of that episode.
Yeah, put that one down. That's a fun one.
He's concerned about garages.
He has a very high opinion of garages. So we got to hear a little bit about that. We got to hear just these like cool bits and pieces. This is fun because it's getting into things that we don't typically hear about. Porcelainized. That, yeah. I wonder if they do that today. But anyway, but Chester has a lot more questions to ask.
Yes, he does. 8. Does Lewis take his dinner to school? On bad days, yes. On good days, no. It is a rather long uphill walk to school, and a quick runny trip home, downhill. I feel he needs some exercise, and besides he is too inclined to play hard during the noon recess and continue his play in the afternoon school session. He seems to keep out of trouble better if he does come home. He is company for me besides, so I have him come home at noon for the most part. I fix his lunch if I have the time and the makings, and he'd rather take his lunch than buy it, as I don't fix too much. If he buys his lunch, a platter as they call it, he has to take what they serve, and I insist he cleans his plate rather than let the food waste, so usually he feels he's had to eat too much. His lunch pail is one I got at G-Mom's old house when she was moving out, and I bought him a small thermos bottle for milk, and he likes it very much. 9. Has Lou used the lathe much yet? No, not much. He's got to find a suitable table to mount it on, and he is getting the 3rd floor ready for a workshop. I held out on that 3rd floor as I felt we should make an apartment out of it and have some money coming in, but the cellar isn't so satisfactory a place to work, and I'm weakening. I expect him to have all his tools assembled there by the time you arrive. 10. Do you have any women neighbors that come over to visit with you? No. The lady on the right of us is constantly ailing, she thinks. We yell at each other across the old well, and sometimes meet to visit a bit in the yard. But she doesn't come into my house, and I don't go into hers. We've nothing in common but the desire to see the yard cleaned up. There is one woman across the street from us who is also a Presbyterian, and is my partner as group chairman in Sunday school for North Main Street. We sometimes meet to discuss the class meetings, etc., but don't really neighbor. Her little girl comes often to play with Lewis, and we wave across the traffic, but that is about all. There just aren't neighbors in this section of the country as you have, and I miss it too. Do you want us to send you any other flowers or shrubs? No. I want you to bring me some more iris, but as I've written you all summer, I want to clean up the yard before I do any real honest-to-goodness planting and flower bed planning. We've done a lot, I think, in the way of cleaning up and making the place look many, many times better, but there is much to do. I'm working on the poison ivy, when it isn't working on me, that is, and we're shoveling ashes up and disposing of them via the well, and the place looks ever so much better than when we moved in. But I expect to put out some King Alfred jonquils, some hyacinth, some crocus, and the iris you bring this fall, and that is about all for this year. 12. Does your TV work okay? Yes, for the most part. We have 3 stations to choose from. Channel 10, which is the Columbia Broadcasting System, is located in Philadelphia behind one of the tallest buildings. Seems funny, but it is true, and that tall building breaks the wave, so that it is the poorest station we have. But perhaps a little adjusting on our particular set would help more. We might also try raising our antenna some, as I think that would probably make a difference. I think Lou could do it, but that roof is awful high, and we don't have a ladder. Okay, I want to address something here. All this fixing, all this work done, like basically 3-story house, how do they not have a ladder yet?
Like, maybe just not a ladder that's big enough to reach up to that roof. Like, it's
maybe
because it's really tall. It's really tall.
She'll get the roofing company guys to do something.
They must have had to bring their own then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, but whew, you would think. So what do we got here? We got, okay, Lewis, first of all, takes his dinner.
Yep.
Which is always so cute that they called lunch dinner.
They should. It's the technical term. I mean, that's why we have a difference between dinner and supper. To sup is to eat at night in supper time. And to dine is the lunchtime. Lunch is a later formation of a word. We need to bring this back. Dinner is lunch. And that's why we have, like, Thanksgiving dinner is usually like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because that is the lunch time. Supping is at night.
I do like it, dinner, because dinner pail. Yeah. And like, and it's a
cute.
fun, it's cute. It's dinner. So we do learn about Lewis and him going to dinner. I mean lunch. I mean school. And I understand too, like that right there, like the whole he has to finish his whole plate
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
like, and like he's like, no, it's too much. Like, but she's like, well, that's that mentality, that depression era mentality, is you clean your plate. I remember my own grandmother saying things like this to me. So, and my mother too. Probably got it from my grandmother. Oh, and then we learn that Lewis is going to be setting up his workshop on the 3rd floor. Because if
Yeah.
there's anything that you want to do is carry big old heavy pieces of furniture up 3 flights of stairs with no, and that's not like they could bring it in from the outside. There's no ladder. So I thought that was silly, but I mean, I guess Lou would know better.
Well, that's the other thing is my dad, after that slide, he was just like, I don't think my dad ever used that lathe. So
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
he has it. He's used it. He's
Your
like, I
dad
don't think.
has.
Yeah. Maybe it made its way to the 3rd floor. It just.
That's so funny to me. But
Mm-hmm.
and again, anytime we get anything about the layout and the floor plans of the house, I'm always
Mm-hmm.
excited because I
Yeah.
want to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd never used the lathe. That's hilarious. And then so we learn a little bit more about her neighbors. Now we know that she had people across the street. We know she kind of lived in an area where there's like a little bit of shops and stuff. But she really doesn't have any women that she talks to.
No, there's older neighbors around her.
Yeah.
And most of these houses are gone today. There is a bank next door. There's like a bank across the street. There's always seemingly, that's the running joke in the Doylestown group, is like something is closing. They're like, maybe they'll put a bank in it in that spot. Like there's not enough of those yet in Doylestown. Yeah, just way too many banks. But in that area today, that's what's there. She's going to have an older, like if you're sitting on Sweetie's front porch and she looks to her right, there's an older neighbor to her right. There's an older neighbor to her left. I think we've talked about the neighbor on the left, Mr. Strauss, Ulysses Grant Strauss, is on that side of the street. And then there's across the way is the home of the Wismers. We're going to hear more about the Wismers in the future. And I'm wondering if this is in relation, if the person she's talking about is actually Miss Wismer across the street. But yeah, even though they're in a borough, like she used to be in the country in Hatboro, she's got neighbors. They're just like, yeah, I mean, they are not used to visiting Miss Darst, clearly, or wanting to come anywhere near Miss Darst's property. They don't want to come to the Black House of Doylestown, the Witch House of Doylestown. It's still tarred black at that time when she's writing this letter. It's like, yeah, no, and there's poison ivy all over the place, but she's going to build some relationships. She's not there yet with this.
Yeah. No, clearly. I didn't even think about Miss Darce like repelling everybody just with her darkness. Oh, and then she does talk about like doing some more landscaping, and she says, when you come in the fall, bring these. So this is, even though, we've like hinted at it and stuff and talked about it, this is something that's going to be happening, which is great. I'm so excited about that. He is concerned about the TV. So is Columbia Broadcasting System, is that CBS then?
Yep.
That's CBS.
Yep.
And this is interesting. It's behind the building, and so they don't get very good reception.
Yeah. The other side, Delco's got better reception. That's how it would seem, just based on, if that's the concern, is there's a building in the way heading towards Bucks, the opposite side would be Delco. So Norwood, better reception. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. They still have their TV. They're still able to get like channels and stuff, and like we can see like how things were in that time period. It just always, like, my kids, I'm like, you can watch whatever you want whenever you want to do it.
Right.
It's crazy. I'm gonna watch The Office whenever I can watch The Office whenever I want. I can binge watch The Office whenever I want.
Yeah.
So, but we do have. So we have a couple of really good. Oh. We have some stars questions.
Yeah, I put them on a separate video because we needed to have some separate time with the questions about Miss Darst. 13. Does Miss D like to watch TV? Some things, yes, but she has to have it turned up so high that it is agony for anyone else in the same room with it. She disdains to see girls in dancing costumes, and more often than not starts her girlhood reminiscences as we are interested in one program. She sometimes turns it on when we aren't here or busy outside, can't catch on how to change stations or bring the picture in, and we often come in to find the TV on without sound or picture, just on. 14. What church does Miss D belong to? She is an Episcopalian. This minister seems to be most interested in the high church ritual than anything else. He is, by the way, Frank Damrosch, a nephew of the Walter Damrosch, comes to call on Miss D fairly often, but not too often at that. He told us recently, while we were showing him the Latin Bible, or rather Cornelius's commentary, that he had just sold a letter written to the Uncle Walter Damrosch by Rudyard Kipling. I asked why he would sell anything like that, and was surprised to have him shrug rather impatiently and say, I got tired of it laying around and decided I could use the money instead. I don't know what he sold it for, of course, but he has a son who could have aired it, or perhaps gotten it out of his way, and had a real prize in time to come. He didn't need the money, I know, as he has just come into $20,000 from his mother's estate. It was in the paper. 15. What does Louis do on weekends? Well, we usually go to a sale on Saturdays if there is one, and of course he goes along. It does him good for 2 reasons. He can usually exert a little initiative in getting acquainted with other kids who are there, or he can find some way to amuse himself. For instance, this sale Saturday was held up in Tinicum. We missed him suddenly and started looking for him in the crowd. No Louis. I went all through the house, and when I didn't find him, Lou went out and found him up in the hayloft. He was exploring the barn. He can talk to most anyone he sees without sticking his finger in his mouth and peeking through his bangs like some kids do. My big trouble is teaching him what he should and should not tell, so that the family skeletons aren't strewn around too noticeably. He has a swing here at home to play on, a sidewalk to ride the tricycle, and there are several little girls to come over and get into trouble. 17. Do you hear any frogs around there now? No, not that I've noticed. And 18. Do you have any birds there that we do not have here? No, you have more than we do. We are particularly bothered by crows, or rather blackbirds, right now. We have some nice fat robins and lots of sparrows, but we're cursed at the moment with some kind of caterpillars on the maple trees. They are there by the skillions. If we walk under the trees, they usually are crawling around on us, and I hate them. The blackbirds and sparrows eat a lot of them, and I suspect they account for the sleek look of the robins. I guess the trees should all be sprayed, but tell me, how are you going to spray a tree way, way, way up to there? Well, that's the end of the questionnaire, and I hope you'll find the answers were satisfactory. I've got a couple of other letters to write, so must be at them. More in a day or 2.
So I think you know my first question. We're talking about the minister for Miss Starr's church, the Episcopalian. Yeah. Can you give us a little bit more information on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually, the Episcopalian Church, and I believe this would have to be St. Paul's Episcopalian Church, is one of the oldest churches in Doylestown. It really is a centerpiece on the southern side of town as you start heading towards Mercer Museum and the library and the Michener Museum and things like that. So people who are visiting town, if you're looking in the general direction, it's considered like sort of the arts district of Doylestown, I think they've called it now. The Episcopalian Church is on that side of town. There is a connection here, a very big one, with Miss Darst and the history of the Civil War Regiment, actually, from Bucks County, because Miss Darst painted the portrait of the Civil War Colonel William Watts Hart Davis of the 104th Pennsylvania. His chaplain in the regiment is the one that put the bell, worked at that Episcopalian church, and he's responsible for the bell that still rings to this day in the bell tower at the Episcopalian church. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say there's more old school members over at the Episcopalian Church than others, because a lot of these churches have been around for a long time, but clearly the Episcopalian Church is like a lot of like the esteemed like sort of war veteran families are probably going to be over there because of their connection to the chaplain and things like that. So it makes sense that Miss Darst is going to that church because she had the connections with that particular group of people in town. The Presbyterian Church is very old as well. I just find it funny that at the beginning of the questionnaire, she'd forgotten the Episcopal Church. And then she has to write it in, and then she writes this bigger answer. And I wonder what happened. Probably was, he asked the question, she was like, oh, I forgot the Episcopalians, and probably went back at this point in the questionnaire and actually added them in at that time. So yeah, it's interesting. And then we get this whole story about the letter from Rudyard Kipling. And yeah, she's like, how could they? it blows her mind that she's like, you've got this valuable thing that like could be something you put in a safe and you give to your kid, and you're just like, I'm just gonna sell it because I don't want it laying around anymore. Unthinkable in Sweetie's mindset, the value of whatever that letter was.
Well, and there was a man, and she's talking about him like Chester might know who he is. This Walter
Damrosch. I actually didn't look into Walter Damrosch himself.
Yeah. Well, the way that she said something about him, honestly, and the fact that Kipling was writing to his family makes me think that there is some kind of like
there is a Walter Damrosch in Wikipedia. This might be him. So let's see. She says, this is actually, really good to talk about. A nephew of the Walter Damrosch. So Walter Damrosch, I think it is coming up as Walter Johannes Damrosch, January 30th, 1862 to December 22nd, 1950. A Prussian and American conductor and composer. He was the director of the New York Symphony Orchestra and conducted the world premiere of various works, including some Copland, some Gershwin, the Piano Concerto from an American in Paris, and others. He was instrumental in the founding of Carnegie Hall. Okay, so he's a big musician, which is probably an understatement. There's a lot to look into here. So he has the letter. Okay, so you've got that would actually make that Kipling letter worth a lot more, right? Because you got a famous author writing to a famous musician.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying that this guy is the nephew. So, yeah.
Wow.
He should have held on to that letter. I don't know what he's doing.
Maybe he's not very historically inclined and did not understand the significance of what he had. Well, maybe
it means not as much to him because it's just in the family. It's like, okay, it's this.
Yeah. It's like he doesn't have that esteem. But he it seems to me like he has a lot of money.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just not something that he's
not worried about it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so we learn more too about Lewis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that he does go with them. We had talked about this before. He goes with them on sales and gets himself into trouble.
He does this to this day. So the fact that he's at this sale and like as a 6-year-old is like, oh, I'm just gonna go check out the hayloft, has never changed. It's like, I gotta keep an eye out of the corner of my eye. I have to like, that's what
you have to make sure you sense where is he. So he's puttering.
He putters in old houses and ruins for sure.
Well, I mean, I think we've talked about this before too. I think I've mentioned this before, but there was a documentary that followed people when they were like, and it met with them when they were like 5, 15 or something, like all the way to like 60s and stuff. And the big takeaway was the person is the same person from 6 to 50.
100%.
Like you're the same person. You have those same kind of the same kind of qualities and characteristics and like those idiosyncrasies, like your dad.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see that. And it's fun to see that, like, and it's fun to have those to have that evidence. You know what I mean?
He just likes to adventure. That's his thing.
Well, and he loves nature too, because he asks her about dogs and maple sugar and frogs and cats and like birds and shrubs. And so he's like, half of these questions are about the natural world. And I love how he's like, do you have any frogs? And she's like, no. Next question.
Next question. Yeah. No. She actually, you'll notice question 16 is missing. So whatever that was gonna be at this point in the letter, she's like, I'm out. And then Miss Darst about the television to me is just like, of course.
She doesn't know how to work it.
And she's talking
about magic picture box.
Right. And then when they're watching, but I have to imagine it's such an amazing century. Like she was born in the 1860s. So when she grew up, there was no television, right? This only happened at the home in the 50s. She's at the extreme end of life. She is watching things and then she's criticizing the girls in the dancing costumes and starts her girlhood reminiscences. I can only imagine what she's saying about, the dress between 1860, what's appropriate, and the girls in the dancing costumes in the 1950s television show. So
I mean, it's got to be such a weird thing to go through. And then she starts talking to them while they're watching TV about like things like that. Come on.
Yeah.
That is so annoying. But she didn't know. Well, maybe she did. She's like, hey, here's another way that I can tick them off. Yeah, this was cool. Finally got to the questionnaire, finally got to it. And I'm really glad that he did ask it, because we got some really neat information, especially the whole thing about Mr. Damrosch. That was really cool.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought to really look that up. I was like, oh, I was thinking about the Rudyard Kipling side, but not on the Damrosch side. So
I know, I was like, I thought that you would be on that too. I thought that was something that you picked up on.
I was distracted by the chaplain of the Civil War Regiment.
Yes, yeah, now we know. But it does make sense too that Miss Darce is, because of her like inclination, her art, you know, art, like she's artsy. I hate that when I can't think of words. I'm tired. Okay. Mrs. Darce, she's an artist, so it makes sense that that's the place that she would be going to church, and that would be like her community there. Okay, well, this is cool. I really like. Oh, go ahead.
It does continue here.
Yes,
because we still have to finish the letter. Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, and this is also why we didn't want to get into this last week, because if we had rushed through these questions, it wouldn't have nearly been as much fun. This had to be its own content coming in. So, really exciting there. But she's still going to write a little more. And she's going to pen this to the end. She's going to write to Jean and Glenn and put some other notes at the end of the questionnaire.
Dear Jean and Glenn, just a very brief note to enclose with our card to wish you much happiness on your first anniversary. How well I remember thinking of you a year ago when Lou and I were cleaning up the little house after having just moved up here. I wonder when you think back over the year just how you'd change things if it were in your power to do so. I have no doubt you've had some disappointing moments, as we had, and as I think most everyone has during their first year together. But by and large, hasn't it been a more rewarding year than you've had before? I am much more inclined to the sentimental than Lou is, of course, as that seems to be a female prerogative, and often think back over the time we've spent together and find that just as often as not, I'm surprised at just how far we've come together. Lou is more practical, of course, and when I remarked to such effect, he replied, "Yeah, who else has been married only 8 years to find themselves $30,000 in debt?" That isn't quite true, but is perhaps rather indicative of our lives. I can't answer your letters now. Seems I don't often either, but we do enjoy hearing from you, and am grateful for private duty, if only for the letters you can write. I shall be most interested to read of your trip with Mush and Chris, and hope you'll be able to write me in detail. Had a letter from Papa giving it to me for not having written for a couple of weeks, and so hope to make it a point of sitting down tomorrow, when Lewis is back in school, and get a good letter written. Marguerite and Joe came over on Thursday night for a long weekend. They spent Friday night here after attending Causey's sale with us, and then on Saturday we went to some sales. Took them back to Elizabeth's last night, and are to go over this afternoon for a while. This running around makes me realize just how old I'm getting. Here's our sincere good wishes for your anniversary, with the profound hope that you'll share many, many more together, and that each one succeeding the other makes you all the happier that you found and married each other. That's how I feel, and it makes me feel very lucky to have found Lou. I think we may have had some harder times than other couples usually do, with long, long separations, but I must say, the longer we're together, the less quarrels we have, and I hope when you've been married as long as we have, you'll be able to tell somebody else the same thing. Happy anniversary. Good fishing, and write soon. Love to you both. Sweetie, Lou, and Lewis.
So we know that Jean and Glenn had their first anniversary, and we don't see Jean's letters, which it's upsetting, you know, but it is what it is. But it seems to me like there might have been some friction that maybe Jean was expressing to Sweetie, which is why she, like, the way, you know, she said, you know, we all have our problems their first year.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, you know, I know that actually they stayed married, which is fun. So I know that if they did have problems, they got through. So that's nice. Lou is incredibly cynical. Like, he's so cynical. Like, it's like he turns anything that she says into, oh, well, we're 30,000. Oh, okay. And as that, you know, and the men, and she speaks to the sentimental nature of the female prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
The nature of the men's prerogative is to protect and provide, and so if you can't do that, if you're in a place where you feel like you're not able to do that, of course it's a huge blow to the male ego. But she doesn't. She feels provided for.
Yeah.
He's taking care of her, and I understand $30,000 back then was a lot of money, but he's and he is who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But just sometimes I wish he wasn't so cynical.
Yeah, he pushes it a little too far. It doesn't help with her inferiority complex.
Yeah, those two things. Yeah, they don't mesh well. But also that pushes her to get through the inferiority complex. You know what I mean? Because she isn't going to get with the inferiority complex. I think you want somebody to tell you, no, you are good enough. Like that was her main desire in feeling that way, because she wanted that support. And so when you act that way, you get it. But if you're not getting that, then maybe stop acting that way. Getting a little bit deeper into the psyche than I want to this morning, because we still have one more letter.
Yes, we do.
And we have other things to talk about. So the second letter, Sweetie, it's the next day. She's gotten her questionnaire out finally. She probably feels very good. She said she was going to write. And it's not very long.
363 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania, June 3rd, 1952. My dear family, I shall write a brief note to accompany the questionnaire that I finally took time to answer. I hope you'll be satisfied with the answers. You see, I expounded on them as I thought they demanded essay-type answers, and therefore didn't have enough room on Papa's page, and since I was typing anyway, put in a few carbons for the rest of you. If you've thought of more, I'll try to write answers for them too, but you may have to wait for them just as you did for this one. We have just had some interesting news. Lou called me to say, 1, the cesspool at the little house is overflowing, and the neighbors are threatening to call the Board of Health unless we do something quickly. Ah, me. The second is that there are to be at least 3 cruises this summer, and I think from the standpoint of safety and convenience that Lou should volunteer for the first one, which will be at Squantum, Massachusetts, about 10 miles outside of Boston, on or about July 5th to 17th or 19th. That isn't just definite yet, the dates, I mean. But Joe will probably be in Boston for summer stock at that time. Also, it is rich antique country, and a third good thing is that it will be over and out of the way as soon as possible to make plans for your visit. You can come before he gets back, of course, but it will curtail our sightseeing while he is gone, as he knows how to travel easiest. Knows his way around is what I'm trying to get said. The second 2 cruises are to be on carriers, and I'm too skittery about them, as one of his friends was killed on a carrier last winter. I hate like the very dickens to have him go, but my better judgment tells me it is the smartest thing all the way around for him to volunteer for this first draft. Times like these, I feel like kicking the traces over and having him quit the Navy and risk making a living on the antique business. But when I think of that pay coming every 2 weeks, I get cold feet and hang on to it, in spite of the cruises. As for the cesspool business, that is the last straw, and we'll have to get busy and try to sell it. I don't know just how we'll come out in the end, but do hope, by all that is holy, that we'll get clear of it, and at least be out from under. It doesn't pay to try to rent a place, that I can see, and I hope we can work on our present tenants to buy, as they are anxious to buy a place of their own, and seem to like the little house pretty well. Well, we shall see. I suppose you've had 1 letter from me, perhaps 2 by now, and now this note is on the way, so I hope I have redeemed myself somewhat for causing you anxiety in not writing. I should like the particulars of your sale of the $1 worth of iris. Cut? Or roots? I hadn't thought to write so soon again, but in doing my monthly bookkeeping and bill sending, I decided I might just as well go on to do this too. Tomorrow, I'm going to go do the laundry, run the errands, and get to the surprise party for Lewis's teacher, if all goes well. I must wash my hair and get it put up tonight. Papa, I agree with you that this is cold weather. It is here, too, and I'm thoroughly disgusted with it. The house is naturally cold, being of stone, and much like a mausoleum, but the weather has been strictly a phooey. Oh, yes, the roofers came yesterday to do the work on the roof, and did a full day's work for 3 men, and they didn't shirk a minute's time away that I could see. I think my letter was well worth while, when you stop to consider how much it saved us in getting them to come back and do the job again. I must stop now. We'll drop you another letter in a couple of days. Not tomorrow, but soon. Hope you're all right, and that you'll write soon too. Love, Sweetie.
What's a cesspool?
Yeah. I think this has to do with the water system and the waste management system over there. So that's
so
why.
Is it like their septic?
Yeah,
That's
I
like
think
their
it's
septic
basically the
system?
septic is a
It's
problem.
a pool, like an actual
Yeah.
pool?
A
Ew.
cesspool, the definition is an underground containment pit or tank that collects raw sewage and household wastewater. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right. All right. I like a
Yeah.
septic tank, basically, but it's like a
Mhm.
pool. And
Yeah.
it's overflowing. Ew, that's gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't
She's like,
Chester
I'm
mention
done with
something
this.
about his cesspool? I feel like
Something. We've heard the term cesspool before. Yeah, in the
Okay.
other letters. But now it's like, okay, we just need to sell this property and be done with it. And the people that are there, they like the place. So hopefully that can be the end of it. Yeah, in Hatboro. But it's one more thing to worry about. If you're landlords, you're going to have to go deal with that. Like, they don't want to run into problems with the Board of Health. He's going to be checking in probably on his way to the base because it's so close to the base. But then he might be in Massachusetts because of these cruises. And I do just want to clarify this for people who might not have any relation to the military. This is not, oh, he's going on a cruise and he's going to chill with Joe in Boston and go antiquing. This is the United States Navy. So they're going on assigned, basically, duty that they have to do at other locations from their main base. So he usually is at Naval Air Station Willow Grove. But yeah, he might go to Massachusetts. And then she's like, I don't want him getting assigned to a carrier, because if he doesn't do one, he's going to have to do something else. So she's hoping he gets to Massachusetts. And he's actually going to serve at a whole bunch of other bases and locations across the rest of his term of service. But just to give like an idea of this, there's a photo of Lou working on a plane that I was looking at. I haven't revealed this photo yet because it is at some point in the future, but it's a great picture of him working on a plane, and it's a large 8x10 photo. And I showed it to my dad and I said, this is a really great photo of your dad. And he was telling me about what the plane was, and then I spotted in the background some palm trees. And I'm just like, I wonder where he was for this one, because it was obviously one of the cruises. But I'm like, that's not Massachusetts, and I knew he spent some time up in New England. Now, palm trees. And then my dad says, oh, that must be when he was in Guantanamo. And I was just like, haven't gotten to that part of the story yet. So, I mean, we're going to get a lot of interesting content of Lou getting to some of these places, because not everybody's been there. But clearly, during Lou's term of service, he was, and he mentioned it, and the palm trees. That's probably exactly what that one was. But yeah, so this is going to be a usual occurrence. They're still planning the trip. This is all coming down to planning the trip. And the roofers. We get the update on the roofers coming and getting their work done, which is really great.
Yes, so. Given like that whole situation.
Yeah.
The we did learn more about the house. And we did learn, we did revisit. She doesn't want him on a carrier because his friend died. And you remember, like, that was, and it was his friend. He was one of the pallbearers, and she had to, like, go through that whole thing. So I can imagine, the idea of him being on a carrier again would be, very unsettling. She knows this too. Like, this stuff is all weighs on her mind. Like she said in the previous letter with Jean, her and Lou spent a lot of time apart. Which is very indicative, which is very common, because that's a lot of those marriages occurred during the wartime, and a lot of the military men were marrying before they were shipped off. So there was this is a huge, we talk about the boomers. Yeah. This is like a huge cultural event that really shaped the way that, that relationships formed. So having him away, and then I can imagine that probably really doesn't sit very well with her, but she has this, what are we going to, we're not ready. We're not ready to do the antique thing yet. It's not going to work out. They're getting there. Which, oh man, I cannot wait. But he stays in the military. He does stay in the Navy.
Yeah, he does his full term of service in the Navy. And this is going to be, it's going to be a feature throughout the podcast, is Lou being in the Navy. He has his official retirement. We have beautiful retirement photos. And if you were to go visit Lou and Sweetie today, both of them are buried in Arlington National Cemetery because he is full-time Navy. And he served in World War II, and he's in the section, I believe, where there's a lot of World War II soldiers there. It makes it difficult to visit 100%. You know, I can't just like go to a local cemetery and go see the graves of Lou and Sweetie. But I have been to their gravesite a couple of times there in Arlington. And yeah, that's why he's there, is because of all that naval service. And of course, she buried with him. So, yeah.
I know. Oh, so
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that was the end of our episode today. It's a good one. We do have this special episode coming out, especially for July 4th, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing. But that is the end of our episode today.
We'll see everybody in a couple of weeks.